You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Tumbly Drunk, and tonight we have episode 186. We'll get you caught up to date on all the latest movements that happened within the Overwatch League. We're going to take a closer look at last week's major balance updates that are currently available to test on the public test realm. And also one that, kind of like fell into our laps a couple of hours before our prior episode, but, we wanted to kind of like let things digest a little bit on that front, check it out for ourselves firsthand, and then we could deep dive into it on tonight's show. But before we can get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, let me just quickly take a moment to thank everyone who is joining us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and I have to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host, Edinar, and Ed, there's been a lot of stuff going on. We had that major balance update. You've had some stuff going on your end, as people could probably tell if they're watching the video. So how's the week been? Let's get an update.
Okay, so this is going to be a good one. This might be a little bit longer than the normal Ed weekly breakdown. So in game wise, it's been a lot of fun. I got my Mercy skin. I've been playing a lot of Apex, been playing a lot of Hearthstone Battlegrounds, having fun with that. So, yay. On the crappy note, my doctor has banned me from playing video games for the next week. So a couple of days ago, I was losing feeling in my fingers. So Ed went to the hospital or the doctor, urgent care, and I got diagnosed with carpal tunnel from gaming. So they gave me some medicine, help, the blood flow a little bit more, and put me in like an immobilizer, wrist immobilizer, and told me I'm not allowed to play video games for a week while taking all this medicine. And if it still hurts after a week, then I have to sit out another week of video games and then come back, and then we're going to see if we need to have surgery. So, yeah. That sucks, but thank God Disney Plus is around so I can watch all of that stuff and Baby Yoda, the cutest thing to ever happen to Star Wars. Period. Like, I don't even think of all the crazy shit I say, like, no one can argue with that. Baby Yoda is the most adorable thing in Star Wars history. So, and then I have to tell, since we'll talk about this later on, I have more and more requests for Crazy Ed stories. So here's the Crazy Ed story for the week. When I was like 10, 11, 12, right around then, Power Rangers was like legit. Like it first started, like the first rendition of it. Like you're talking when it was like White Power Ranger.
Yeah. Doing a throwback and having the crossover with Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. So me and my sister and a couple of our friends, I grew up in the country, and what we would do is, because we're stupid kids, when cars would drive by, we would all lie on the ground, and then we'd jump up, not into the road, jump up on the side of the road, and pretend we were like, I am Green Dragon, and do the thing like we're calling our little animal, hoping to scare them for some reason. And
naturally,
yeah, just stupid kid things. And then one time a car stopped, so we panicked and we started booking it back to the house. Now my parents had just planted about 15 new trees that had metal poles attached to it. Can you see where this is going? So little Ed
can't piece it together.
Little Ed books it back to the house. Can't see anything. Face first into a metal pole. Didn't break my nose. I don't know how, but there was a lot of blood. Turns out it was one of the friends' parents drove by and drove past the house because they were coming to pick him up. So we ran for nothing, and I got all bloodied for nothing. So that's your weekly Ed story.
But which Power Ranger were you?
I was the green one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the more important question to ask in this situation.
Well, like, I wanted to be the white Power Ranger, like the original white Power Ranger, because it had turned into the green one, or vice versa. It's been a while. But they're like, no, he's not around. So I'm like, dang it. But they tried to also make me be the blue one. I'm like, I'm not a nerd.
Yet.
Lo and behold, it's a nerd.
Fast forward.
15 years, and you're like, damn it, I should
have been blue
Power Ranger.
The crazy thing is, too, like, looking back, like, you wouldn't expect to see, like, these brands or these franchises when we were very young, like, still existing to this point where we're at now in our lives.
Didn't they do like a Power Rangers episode where they had every like remake, recreation, offshoot Power Ranger all in one episode?
I'm sure they did. I mean, there's just been so many different iterations throughout the course of history.
And if you did not have a crush on Kimberly, the Pink Power Ranger, something was wrong with you.
But anyways, so my week in gaming
podcast.
It is. I never would have guessed. My week in gaming pretty much consisted of two things. Obviously, Overwatch, and a little bit of Hearthstone Battlegrounds. Been streaming that quite a bit. Almost every stream.
Like 5 days a week.
Well, it's not quite. Well, I mean, I guess if you count the flex days that I was, because I wasn't really going out or being social over the weekend, so yeah, I guess you could say it was 5. But, really enjoying that. I have not gotten my 9 wins yet. I still think I need like 5 more wins to get the Mercy skin, so I might try to finish that up tonight. It's been a good week. I also had like a tuxedo fit in, so got measurements, all that good stuff, so I'm all set for my best friend's wedding, and that's not till like April, but they set up like the group like really early on, but better to get that stuff out of the way, situated. Now I can focus on content creation yet again, and we'll have more on that front in a little bit, but let's go ahead and let's jump into the news. So, general Overwatch, guys, not really anything going on. We did have the PTR update, which we are saving for the main discussion. There was like a couple of like leaked images about like an upcoming challenge that were pretty much proven to be fake. That was talking about like Brigitte and Zenyatta, and there's gonna be like a Zenyatta human skin of all things. But that's not happening. That was all doctored, so don't pay too much attention into that. But it was crazy, like, looking back, though, like, probably the biggest thing that happened, like, just general gaming was running in the Kesha and doing our stream. We were just effing around in arcade, and then after you left, like, I was with Kesha for, like, another couple of games after that. Just follow time and time again, and like it's weird. It's like we're not like actively trying to queue at the same time, but just for whatever reason tends to pair people together or against one another if you're on your friends list. So I felt like it was probably 3 or 4 games at least. But general Overwatch, it's been a quiet week outside of the PTR update. Not too much there, but there is a lot going on in regards to the Overwatch League. Some pretty big news if you are a Houston Outlaws fan, and that is the fact that the Outlaws sale is final. It's gone through its process. A pen has been put to the paper. It is a done deal at this point. And, of course, it was having to be sold by Immortals Gaming Club because, they had already had a franchise with the LA Valiant, and you can't have two franchises in the Overwatch League. So Immortals Gaming Club, they sold the Outlaws franchise over to Beasley Media Group. And this is kind of like their second venture into the world of esports after they had invested in Renegades back earlier in the year. That was back in April. So, of course, like, there was kind of like this lull period after there were some early reports about interest from a real estate agent from the Houston area, that being Lee Zeben. But that deal was kind of like murky from the get-go, because like you would see Zeben going out and tweeting to like these celebrities trying to see like if they would partake in investing in the sale. So it kind of like left a lot of people wondering whether or not he actually had the funds to begin with. And then we just heard like nothing for a couple of months after that, to the point where no one really knew what the situation was. The Outlaws were being really quiet on the sign-ins and all of that. But, you know, it's been a pretty big week for them. They got the deal finalized at this point. They also made a couple of other announcements, which we'll be talking about. But you have to feel like this is just a big sigh of relief, both for the Outlaws and also their fan base at this point, knowing that they can finally move forward and start to kind of like restructure at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge sigh of relief. I want to know how much of a discount they got it at. Because, I mean, when they sold it, it's becoming like a time crunch type thing. Like, Immortals had to get rid of the team before the start of the new year, or start of the new league year. So, like, they probably weren't going to get the same amount they were supposedly going to get from the guy who didn't have any money. And, you know, this works out well. I mean, they have esports background, like with Renegades, he said. It's not a Texas-based company, but I mean, that really, who cares about that? I mean, the majority of these organizations probably aren't located in the cities where the teams are. So, you know, this is good for Houston, and you definitely saw it in some signings. Maybe in some signings, but you know, they're doing some changes. They're bringing things in, bringing people in, and you know, this is good for them. See, I said positive things about the Outlaws.
Had to happen eventually.
Yep, this is going to be an NR Positive Outlaw podcast today only. Today only.
Yeah, it wasn't like a force of hand either by like Ramses making you a sign.
Right? Twice.
It's like, here, this is for you. That happened
now
2
hold
times.
it up in front of Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Yes.
So outside of that, we also have there was like kind of like an interview going on with the Seoul Dynasty Chief Operations Officer Arnold Herr, who was mentioning that they are going to be retiring Ryu Jaehoon's jersey number. So, you know, this is something that we do see quite a bit in traditional sports. Really don't see it a ton in esports here as of yet. But Jaehoon's tenure really preceded the Overwatch League when it was part of that Lunatic High roster, which was basically the core Dynasty roster during the inaugural season, where, you know, prior to the league, he played alongside Zunba, Miro, Toby, as well as Guido. And, you know, we do know that Jaehoon is a free agent. We're not going to have Toby and Jaehoon both back on the Dynasty during the 2020 season. And, you know, there's a lot of rumors about where Jaehoon is going to end up. A lot of signs pointing towards him going with the Vancouver Titans for the 2020 season. But, you know, they were kind of like talking about like how whenever Jaehoon decides to retire, they'll have like an official ceremony, which I would imagine would probably be at a home game should that happen, because like it wouldn't make sense to do it kind of like elsewhere. So like, of course, this would take place in Korea, but you know, might not happen anytime soon when you really think about just the impact that Jaehoon has and continues to have. Because I know like even very recently, like there was an article up on the Overwatch League website about players that the pro players look up to, and Jaehoon was one of the most picked across the board by several people out there.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. Not because I'm not a fan of retiring numbers. Because let's be real, he didn't deserve it. I know a lot of people look up to him, which is awesome. But I mean, he spent a lot of time just not even playing in the season 1 and season 2. Like, he was riding the bench, not a lot, but I'd say at least 25-30% of the time. So in my mind, when you have somebody whose jersey is going to retire, that means they're one of the all-time greats of your team. And he wasn't even an all-time, like, he wasn't even their best support player at times.
Well, regardless of that, he's still the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the dynasty and just their history. But like for me, like my way of looking at it is more when we're talking about career lengths in esports as opposed to what we see in traditional sports. You're not seeing players playing with the same team for like 6 to like 15 plus seasons like you would in like football or baseball or whatever. Because heck, like, we even have kids like who are retiring at 18 to pursue like education at this point, or do military service.
Like, let's say Jae Hong does sign with the Titans, and he becomes their main flex support for 3-4 years. Now he's becomes the Titans support player. Like, if he makes a name for himself more with the Titans than with Seoul, then you know what's going to happen? Is Seoul going to still retire his jersey? Probably not. Like, it's just too early to come out and announce you're going to do something like this. Especially when he only played 2 seasons. We don't know how many more he's going to play, whether he's going to go into coaching afterwards. Like, what is going to happen? The season, the Overwatch League is only 2 years old, or 2 seasons old. And you're already like, we're going to retire this guy's jersey. No. I mean, in my mind, there's probably only like 4 people in the Overwatch League whose jerseys I would say deserve to be retired at this point. You're looking at Gesture probably. Jonak is an obvious one. I can't even think of anyone else. Maybe Sinatra. Yeah, there's really nothing else. So, you could go the route of they meant so much to the game. But if they meant so much to the game, then that's the kind of instance where every team retires that jersey. And I know it has nothing to do, like, this is obviously not the same, but like in baseball, every team has Jackie Robinson's jersey number retired. And that's because he meant more to the game and as a whole than just to one team. So, like, that it would need to be something like that. So, I don't know. I'm not a fan of doing this. So many things can happen that now then you have to backtrack if it goes wrong. And he wasn't that good for that. Like, Seoul didn't really do anything. He didn't play a lot of the time. It's just not the right move. So I now consider the Seoul Dynasty's owner the same as Jerry Jones. They're the same person. They're just going to say crazy shit to get fan support and then back off it. So.
Could be. But anyways, so obviously, we are in the off season, so a lot of stuff going on. In regards to the free agency window and sign-ins, all of that stuff, it was kind of a quieter week when we compare it to like some of our prior weeks in between. That being said, there are still teams out there who have not announced team options as of yet. And, we're like 5 days after like everyone needed to have 8 players under a contract, and then like the team options need to be weighed like 2 weeks ago, and we still don't know officially who is on all of these teams yet, which is really infuriating when you really think about it, because there are a handful of teams that don't even have 8 officially as of yet, since they haven't announced the team options. But let's talk about what is actually known at this point. So, as usual, we'll go team by team on this front. I'll also talk about like the coaching changes along the way on these teams. So, since we were just talking about a potential landing spot in Vancouver, let's see what the Titans have been up to this past week. So the Titans, they went out and they released 3 different players. They released Rappel, Tizzy, and then finally we had Hureg leaving the Vancouver Titans. So, going back, Hureg mentioned in his Looking for a Team post on Twitter that he's basically moving on to a coaching role moving forward, but he's looking to find a new landing spot in that regard. Of course, we know, like, the rumor mill, we kind of, like, I mentioned on last week, like, a lot of fingers are pointing towards Fisher and Jahan going to the Titans. There's also been a couple of murmurs about maybe them even releasing Bumper on top of that, which would be... I can't even process that thought of how big of a gamble that would be, and that's not a risk worth taking. Especially when, like, there's a lot of similarities between the playstyles, too,
Yes and no. Like, I was thinking about this. Like, yes, they're both crazy aggressive, Fisher and Bumper. But there's one big difference. And that is Fisher is aggressive attacking the other team.
Mm-hmm.
Bumper is more aggressive trying to pull off stupid shit. Like, you never saw like Fisher hiding behind a wall trying to pin somebody off the map. Like Bumper does. Like, Bumper takes risks, but stupid risks that I think would, like, when they worked out, everyone talked about them, but I think they were more detrimental to the team than anything. Fisher allows the team to still play with that aggressive mentality without having to deal with the stupid mistakes. So, like, I think this is a perfect fit for Fisher. Now, I'm also a massive Fisher fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Fisher signs with the Titans, I'm gonna get a Fisher Titans jersey. Like, that's just gonna happen. I'll add it to my Soul Dynasty Fisher jersey.
Yeah. You'll add it to your Fisher collection.
Yes. And I think that would be great. Now, Rappel leaving, we obviously know he did leave to go to another team. I think Rappel was a very good flex support. It's just that he was not going to get playtime over Haxel.
Well, Twilight.
Twilight, I mean. Haxel. He wasn't getting play over Twilight. Mm-hmm. You're not replacing an MVP candidate flex support when you play the same thing as them. So Rappel went to bigger, brighter things. So that was good. Tizzy, I was actually a little bit surprised of. Just because if they were gonna get rid of Bumper, Tizzy's not the worst backup to have. But they could also want to get somebody with more tank flexibility as a backup. Because all Tizzy did was play Orisa. That was really it. So...
Well, I wonder... Obviously, we'll talk about the Orisa changes in a bit. I wonder with Orisa's changes, with her being, like, the person you tend to kill last because of, like, the immortality aspect of Orisa in her current form on PTR... if maybe Bumper is gonna have a different effect on that character. Who knows? Like, obviously Tizzy was coming in and playing a ton of the Orisa on this team in the current meta, and he did well at that role. But I'm confident like Tizzy's gonna find a landing spot, especially with how competitive main tank positions have been in the league.
Oh yeah, Tizzy will land on a team, not as a main tank, like as a starting main tank. But I think Tizzy will end up... Honestly, you know where I would like to see him? With the Florida Mayhem.
Okay.
But that's just me. Now I know they have a lot of tanks over there, so it might not be the best fit. But I just I like Tizzy over on that side of things. So, but yeah, no, Titans, they got rid of 3. Hureg, let's just talk about Hureg. He was never really playing anyway, and he's moving to a coaching role. Good for him. I think he kind of saw the writing on the wall.
He had some moments, but
he did, but he was not destined to stay in the league.
It's funny just that effect that he's had on these teams that he's been on in the past, though, because he'd always be kind of like a bench player, and whatever team he was on would just be winning championships. Whether or not that's going to translate into winning championships as a coach remains to be seen.
Yep,
but we'll see if
get
it's
a
going to
job
be
as a coach.
Oh, I'm sure.
Easily, he'll get a job as a coach. At least, as an assistant coach with a Korean Contenders team.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably poached by some Overwatch League team to be an assistant coach or something like that.
Yeah, or he'll just become the head coach of Florida in the following season.
Right? I mean, Runaway is looking for a coach.
Yeah.
Just saying. He used to play on Runaway. Runaway needs a coach.
Could definitely happen. Relationship is already there on that front.
Yes. So, yeah, Vancouver Titans making moves with their backups.
Basically.
Yeah. So next team, the fire sale of the Spitfire continues. So the London Spitfire now have one person on their team. After they released Quarterman and Bedosian, they have Krillin left.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you knew it was coming. It was just a matter of them actually announcing it. We don't know who they're gonna sign. They've been doing these stupid.
Oh, there's a ton of teases. Let's go over the teases real quick. So,
okay.
Here's the laundry list of teases that we have seen. And I'm not gonna count Pavane because that was the latest one, and we pretty much already knew that. So in regards to actual roster sign-ins that are in the works, they have teased Genji DPS Glister, LG Ehiwa's main tank JMac, Runaway DPS Shui, current Dynasty Flex support Hidley, and then one of Genji's sister teams, Gen B, main support Sanguinar, who I know absolutely nothing about. So it's a tier 3 Korean main support. So, I honestly don't know what to think. I'm really happy if Glister gets promoted to the Overwatch League. A little bit upset that it's not on the Dynasty, but that's besides the point. But right now, it's just really hard to get a clear picture of what this team's identity is going to be. Because this is screaming, to me, we're going budget Korea again. This is going to be kind of like a mirror of what we saw with the Mayhem this past season. And it's just oh man, we've kind of seen how this plays out. Mm-hmm. Maybe towards a later quarter of the season, they'll have a little bit of a resurgence depending on how the patches cycled in the Overwatch League in 2020. Or maybe they are just grasping at straws, looking to just sign about anyone at this point. But for me, I want to see, is this going to be the time that they're actually going to play Krillin? Knowing that he was the only piece that they held on to. Clearly they see something in this kid, and we just haven't really seen the opportunities at hand for him so far, and it's up to him to really make the most of whatever they have planned, because it's pretty obvious at this point, whether you are established in this franchise or not, they do not have a problem turning over a new leaf.
No, and I'm with Krillin, the other thing is they may not be super high on him. They may just be okay, but he also, you got to remember, he also came in insanely cheap.
Mm-hmm.
He came in as the trials player, and nobody knew who the hell he was. That's just how when I remember when he first signed, and we're like, who the hell is this? Like we had no idea. So they may be getting him for the league minimum, and they're like, well, he knows the system. We're already paying him the league minimum. Why not keep him? And maybe even give him a shot. So who knows what's going on? Hopefully, we do get to see him play. I am surprised we're not hearing more like this would be a prime team for Kaiser to come play for. Because he probably wouldn't. He's been looked over by everyone.
I don't know if it's an agent thing with Kaiser or what's going on, but yeah, like that's a name that's been getting thrown around a lot, and all of us are kind of just up in arms at this point because it's a name that we bring up year to year at this point, and no one has taken a stab at it yet. It's
Nope.
crazy.
Nope. And so this would fit, but they're going budget, fine on them. At least they're going budget Korean, where budget Korean's better than budget NA or budget EU. Because let's be real, budget Korean is still better than some players in the Overwatch League. Now, I don't think London will light the world on fire, but they could, I think they're setting their ceiling at like a 500 record, like 8-8, like maybe squeak into the playoffs, maybe not. See how everything goes, because I think a lot of teams kind of want to see how this first geolocation, hubbubaloo goes on. And like how much it really costs, how much of a factor it is, how much chaos happens before they truly start investing money in. And this is just one of them. So, will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I can't wait to see teams just science the hell out of travel logistics.
Like, I want to know what hotel rooms they're going to be staying at. Like, are they going to be getting, like, Hilton Inns? Are they going to be staying at Super 8s? Or are they just going to get, like, one Airbnb? Like, what's going on? So, like, the first time, like, a team is like, take our private, like, our company jet. You're just like, ugh. And so it begins.
Basically. I mean, spending all their money on jet fuel.
Well, I mean, like, the guy who owns the Rams owns the Gladiators? Yeah, I think he owns the Gladiators. And, I mean, they have jets. They have private jets and all that fun jazz. Why not? Let them use a company jet every once in a while.
I mean, you know what? DPay's done a hell of enough job in the first 2 seasons. Let him have it.
Yeah, like if the Rams aren't using it, let them use the team jet. Who cares? So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but we can move on to the next team.
And speaking of the Gladiators, a couple of changes on their front. So they've actually brought back Bishu. And they also added a new coach to their staff, who was from Talon Esports, and that would be Face, who will serve as an assistant coach. Alright, so obviously the big thing here is, Bishu makes his return to the Gladiators, but, probably not going to be seeing a ton of playtime since, they acquired space from the LA Valiant. But, at the end of the day, Bishu can be a vocal leader in, the locker room. He's a good poster boy for the franchise. We know he's not afraid to help out in the Tier 2 scene, should it come to that. But all in all, he is marketable, and really at the end of the day, when you think of Bishu, you think of the Gladiators. So it's more of a homecoming for him on that front. Now, in regards to Face from Talon Esports, this is not the only Talon Esports coach that did get poached, because there was another sign-in, and that one we'll talk about later. And, that specific coach went over to the reigning champions of the San Francisco Shock. But how are you feeling about Bishu kind of filling that bench off-tank role on the Gladiators this season?
I love it. I love the fact that they brought Bishu back in. not only is he's as much as you hate to say it, because he's not the best player, but with Sherford not there, he's the face of that team. Even though he doesn't play, he's the face of that team, which is weird to think. But and it's not like even now, like we thought like Bishu was gonna be big when like Void and stuff was there, and it just wasn't an issue. Now it's like, okay, maybe he's in there to help with Birdring, like with translating and stuff like that. Who knows how much exposure Birdring has to working with in an English setting. So maybe that will help. But Bishu's the ultimate like fan favorite on that team. Like Space is there, but Bishu's the face. So I'm very, very excited for all this, for him to come there, and I think that pretty much fills their whole team. Does that give them?
Yeah, pretty sure they're at 12 at this point. They're up there.
I'm looking on Wikipedia right now. They're at 11.
Wikipedia is not always up to date, though.
No, but I mean, they have Bishu on the team. Is Void still on the team?
No.
No, he's not. Then they're at 10. Everyone else I know is on the team. Because they got like Paintbrush Mirror, Birdring, OGE, Space, Panker.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, good for them. Good moves. And then they added Face from Talent Esports. I mean, I don't know anything about Face. I'll just leave that there. Like, I know nothing. So, yeah, we'll move on to the next team, which is the Atlanta Reign. The Atlanta Reign bring in Sharp to play DPS, which gives them, I believe Sharp is a projectile DPS, right?
Team Envy. From
Team Envy. And then they add Mentalist as the assistant coach. So they bring in an assistant coach, and then they sign Sharp. I like the.
Sharp's he's hit scan.
Oh, he's hit scan.
Yeah.
I like the signing. I mean, the Atlanta Reign now have a pretty decent, DPS lineup when you include Edison, Baby Bay, Erster, and Sharp.
That's assuming Baby Bay's back. We don't know his team option status.
We do not know his team option, no. And then Sharp is not technically 18 right now, but he will be. He will be 18. But yeah, I'm excited to see all this. I wouldn't be surprised if Baby Bay's off the team, but yeah. Good signings. Again, I don't know anything really about Mentalist as a coach.
Well, he was from GC Busan Wave, so that was where Edison was from. So we saw like a lot of like pairings between coaches and players coming together as like package deals during this off-season period. So this happened quite a bit actually. Runaway, Element Mystic, GC Busan Wave. And I'm sure there's a couple others that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's been more of a common trend this year as opposed to the prior 2 seasons, for the most part, on that front. So next up, we have the Chengdu Hunters, who... Not really a ton of stuff going on there. Obviously, a lot of those players are still under contract, but we do have an update on their coaching staff. And RUI has had to leave the team and kind of put his coaching career on hold due to health concerns. So RUI, he had coached the Hunters in the 2019 season. There the Hunters finished in 12th place. And then prior to that, he was with the Shanghai Dragons during the inaugural season, but had to kind of leave during the mid-season point, also due to health issues. But, he's been pretty busy. He's been involved with the World Cup for the Chinese team, where we've seen them come in second place back-to-back years, losing to South Korea and the United States team this year. And it's a very grueling experience, with the World Cup. It does take a physical toll, and with the introduction of travel structures being put into place as the Overwatch League goes global, that would just be another thing kind of added on, and it's gonna be too much for him to just pile on at this point. So, when we look at the Hunters, this is basically the first personnel change that we've seen on this team. So they're without a head coach as of now. But this is going to be a blow to the team. So right now we're just trying to figure out: are they going to promote someone in house, or are they going to go out and try to pick up someone new? We're just kind of waiting and seeing how they're going to fill that position at this point.
Yeah, it sucks because he's, from all we know, he's a great coach. This is the second time he's had to leave for health reasons, but he's done wonders for Team China in the World Cup. His actual coaching style for the Hunters transformed, the way teams play. Really, they were playing DPS when DPS wasn't a thing.
Yeah, really quick. Kesha was asking about the contract status of Leaf sign-in, and Leaf had signed back in July, like end of July. He is under contract, so yes, Leaf is signed on board. So you got like Jinmu, you got Leaf, Yunzhao Lon is also back. I'm not sure about Bacon Jack. Bacon Jack might be on the way out, but like that's the only thing I'm kind of like uncertain about in regards to who's in and who's out right now.
Yeah, and the big thing like with is, like you said, who are they going to bring in to be the new coach? Because who knows? Are they going to just promote their assistant coach?
Yeah, they only have one assistant coach too. Like I'm looking on Wikipedia, like they had RUI
That's
as the
not
head
always
coach.
up to date.
I know it's not, but like that's the only thing listed.
Yeah, and
we know it's up to date because that was the only personnel change.
They have a contenders team, right?
The Hunters?
Yeah, I thought they did. LG Hua?
Hold on, I'm trying to see if they have it listed on here. I mean, they might. I'm pretty sure LGE does have one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's LGE Hua is their academy team. Which, if that's the case, then they can just, poach the coach from there. So, yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll hear more about this, once everything, kind of calms down. But hopefully he could come back. I don't know if he will. This being, the second time in 2 years he's had to take time off due to health reasons.
Yeah,
At that point, you should just not come back because your health is more important.
Looks like LGE have 2 coaches, a head coach and an assistant coach.
Oh yeah, steal one of them. It's totally okay.
I mean, either way, that's pretty light on personnel on that front.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably need some new coaches, but I'd say promote their, the head coach for the contenders team, because at least they're familiar with everything, hopefully, and then sign, some new coaches, get some new assistants in there and stuff like that. So hopefully that all changes soon. And then that's all for the Hunters, and then the Shock, San Francisco Shock had another kind of not minor change, but they signed a new assistant coach to replace 9K, who left for Pairs. They signed Talon Esports head coach Arachne to be their assistant coach. Add to the Krusty coaching tree. Basically, let's just keep adding to the Krusty coaching tree, because it's not like Talon Esports was a bad team.
They were a big fish in a small pond in that region.
Yeah, like they were the number 1 team in that region. So, bring in Arcane, teach him up a little, and then I'm sure he'll be poached in the next year or 2.
Yeah, Arachne is just one of those guys who was former player turned coach. I know when he got into the scene, he was like a main tank player, and that was back when he was with Mighty AOD. So, he worked out pretty well as a coach. But I would not be surprised to see, the Krusty tree expanded further and further. And, I'm sure Arachne's gonna, end up somewhere as a head coach next season. That just tends to work out for people that work with Krusty along the way. So we'll see what happens on that front. But let's talk about the Guangzhou Charge. So we have 3 new additions to the team. They went out and they picked up Kron, Wea, and also Neptuno. So unfortunately, we don't get the Fraggy and Neptuno reunion on the team since Fraggy's not on the Charge anymore. We ended up being like the first Chinese contenders player that was picked up during this off-season period, and I remember like glancing on social media and like someone had posted something about like kind of like a short story about like his background, but I didn't really get to read too much into that, so I don't know if anyone in chat got to see that. But this is a flex support call up from their academy team, which is the One Winner, Team1W.GZA. And, from what I remember about Kron is he was pretty damn good on Zarya and Roadhog. I can't remember him too much on D.Va play. But, with the current stuff happening on PTR, Zarya and Roadhog both pretty good options on off-tank. But I'm always a big fan of them promoted in-house. But for me, the Neptuno signing is going to be a big deal. Because when they got rid of Fraggy and they got rid of Bishu, like, it's just like, we don't have that veteran presence on this roster, and Neptuno is the perfect player to fill that role, to give them a little bit more experience, because at the end of the day, you have the Guangzhou Charge, who are still one of the youngest teams in the Overwatch League at this point.
Oh, for sure. Now, the question is like, I mean, I don't know much about Crown or Wire, but I'm wondering if Neptuno's actually going to play. Like, are you starting Neptuno over Chara?
I can see that.
Probably not. But maybe. I mean, we just don't know. Like, he could very well be. One thing that I do like is this team is definitely expanding on the diversity.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, too, though, like, we were also kind of saying the same thing about Nero when he was signed. We're like, is he really going to play in a Chinese roster?
Mm-hmm. And then they kind of went went kind of all Korean except for like Nero and Eileen. And then, yeah, because when they got rid of Kip, they did. And then we're just like, oh, okay. And then now it's, becoming more and more of a diverse team, which is awesome, and they're definitely a team to watch coming up. I mean, like, I'm just looking at their organization. Their GMs from the US, their head coaches from Korea, they have analysts from China, Taiwan, and the UK. Like, this is a very diverse team. So good on them. I'm excited to see this team. I'm excited for Nero. Let's be real.
Nero to hero.
Nero to hero. And Neptuno, not bad. Nothing special. Hopefully he can kind of get back his form, because I expect everyone from the fusion of last season to kind of step up a little this season, because they were just so defeated and such a crap team last season.
If the PTR has taught me anything, it's that snipers with these armor changes pretty good right now. You know who also gets to see play when snipers are meta? Mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like this is good for the fusion. I don't know. And good for, the Charge. It's a win-win right there. Because, for the Charge, if snipers come back and Widow comes back, you're going to see Happy.
Mm-hmm.
And Happy is, Happy will make you happy. Watching Widowmaker. Yeah? I'm sticking with it. It's a good one. No?
Is it a good one? I don't know. Will that Kesha Trudgefoot be the be the judge on that front?
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is but every player who plays for the Guangzhou Charge, like their name could be the song, like the name of a Pharrell song. Like besides just Happy, like I could see him having a song called Neptuno. It just would fit.
I mean,
No,
Karan's close enough to Crane that he could be a Ninja Turtle villain.
Crown would be Ninja Turtles. Rio is. I mean, that's Duran Duran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nero to Hero. I'm thinking Enrique Iglesias. I can be your hero, baby. And then you got Come On Eileen.
Mm-hmm.
And then Happy from Pharrell. This is basically like a top 50 like Billboard's Overwatch League team. Come on, ride the shoe train. Shoo, shoo.
Good luck with Wea. Like, I don't know what the hell you do with that.
Give me time. I'll think of something.
Well, while you think of that, what do we see what's going on with the Hanjo Spark? Your finger bangs.
Bang bang. Shocker to everyone. The Hanzo Spark roster will not include Crystal. I know.
What?
Hold back your shocked face.
Or post your shocked Pikachu memes.
Crystal is not going to be on the team. I don't know what we're going to do. Trenchfoot, thank you. We are the champions.
Okay.
Yes.
That does work. That's close enough.
Good one. That is
close
a
enough.
good one. Okay, so that's the Spark. The roster will not include Crystal, and no Smite's team option is being declined. So it's not surprising moves.
Right. So we don't have the problem child.
Yeah, and we don't have a backup tank.
No Smite really wasn't seeing play or gonna get the nod over Gushue, so.
No, he was a two-way player at the end of this season. So I'm just waiting for the Spark to actually make a sign. Because they really haven't done anything.
Yeah, because I know at one point there was the contract status thing initially where they had Zildjian on the roster that we just didn't know about, and we haven't heard anything on that front. So I don't know what the status is on his contract, or if they're bringing him back, or what they're doing there. But they haven't really announced anything, which is kind of what's throwing us off. Because for most of these other teams, we're hearing them picking up a player here and there, but with the Spark, it's been pretty quiet on that front.
Yeah, because it's not like they don't have any weaknesses. They need another support, another DPS player to go with Godsby. I like Adora, but Adora is not the answer in my mind. I think you could pair another DPS with Godsby. Rhea's good, but I think you could get an upgrade from Rhea to a more flexible off tank. Rhea's more of a diva play. Gushue is really good, but I think if his Reinhardt still needs a little work, so maybe you can bring in somebody to play Reinhardt like Kaiser. Weird, the Shatter God himself. But with IDK and Bebe, you're pretty much set on the support line.
If only there was a way to play Reinhardt where all you had to really do is just hold W, right? Okay, you still with me? And then you hold M1. I feel like Gushue would probably be okay there.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Once we start talking about the PTR, I personally think the way that tanks are played will be changed completely with this match. Everything you know about tanks, throw out the effort. Main tanks, throw out the window. Because everything's about to change with main tanks.
Yeah, Orisa's officially an off tank, by the way.
Yeah.
Basically, with their playstyle, but more on that later. So that's what's going on with the Spark for now. Really no surprise on either front there. So let's move into New York and see what the Excelsior are up to. So we got one sign-in and that is that the NYXL have picked up Hotba to be this team's off-tank. So Hotba comes in, his flexibility will come into play, but, I have to say, when you compare Hotba to Meko, I'm very conflicted. I do feel like it is a downgrade over the loss of Meko here. Yes, Hotba is really good at, flexibility, playing these other off-tanks, but, on a diva basis, it's a definite downgrade compared to Meko, who's been more consistent across the board. Mm-hmm. But it's not a terrible sign-in. It's just, how much is he going to have to rely on Mono in this case, and how quickly can he adjust to being in the new environment? So maybe this is going to be something that's just going to be kind of like a work in progress, and we'll see the progression happen in real time at this point. And then outside of that, the NYXL also promoted IMT to head coach, who, if you've watched any of, the New York, YouTube stuff, the behind-the-scenes stuff, was kind of the staff member that they were pinning a lot of their success in regards to the playoffs on. He was the guy really stepping in on that side of things. So he's the one that ended up getting the nod. He got the promotion to head coach, even though, there's really not a ton of information out there on him.
Yeah, it's, we don't know a lot of information on him, but yeah, that works for the Excelsior. They're a team that is set up to kind of be not self-sustaining, but they have so much synergy together because they played together for so long. So you just need that coach who has experience with them to really succeed. And IMT is that coach. He's been with them for a while now. So it was a good signing. The Hotba signing, it was the best that they could do with the players out there not named Meko. In my mind, that was Korean, because they're obviously not signing a non-Korean. It was basically between Hotba, Dako, and
Bianca.
Would
have been the other obvious one.
Yeah, from contenders from XL2 that don't exist. So I like the Hotba move. I think he'll fit in well with that team with the flexibility. Don't rule out, because everyone thought they knew what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. The New York were going to do coming into last season, and then we didn't see Pine or SBB. You know what I mean? Everyone's who's going to be starting outside Libero? Is it going to be SBB? Is it going to be Flowers? Is it going to be Pine? And everyone's nope, Nene. I would not be shocked if Nene was still your starting off-tank going into next season, depending on what the meta is.
If it's Zarya, it's a very good possibility.
Yeah, if you're going Ryan Zarya, you'd be stupid not to start Nene as your off-tank. And then you can bring in, Libero and SBB, and, you're fine. I think this just adds more flexibility to the team. So it was a good signing. I think it's the best you could ask for after losing one of the top 3 flex tanks in the league. So let's see here. Did you do this so I had to talk about them when we were rotating?
I didn't even say that we were rotated back and forth. I mean, you just went with it that way, and it just happened that we're going to talk about Meko's landing space at this point.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Houston Outlaws. They made, in my mind, 2 very, very big, 2 new starters in their 2 of their 3 weakest positions.
I was gonna say there's still one spot in particular that I'm kind of
you're kind of what are you doing? So they signed Repel from the Vancouver Titans, who I think will replace Raucus as the flex support. Now I know a lot of people love Raucus. I even got yelled at on Twitter by some random account for my trash talking of Raucus.
All right, hold on, I'm gonna do it right now.
All right, fair enough.
While you do this trash take.
I think I think Repel will take over as the main flex support for the Vancouver Titans. I think Repel was very underrated when he was with the Titans, but he was not getting the play time that he probably deserved because Twilight was there. So I think he will do that. The other big move, which was the real big move, Mecco signed with the Houston Outlaws to be their off tank. Like you couldn't have found a better off tank outside of Gesture or Space to come in and be your off tank for the Houston Outlaws. In my mind,
you meant Fury, not Gesture.
Fury and Fury in Space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, and this got brought up in our Discord, and it was very good, like to bring it up. You have to think that this was not Mecco's first choice, but money-wise kept him away from other teams. Like from other teams signing him as an off-tank. Like when Mecco became a free agent, he wasn't like, I want to go sign with the Houston Outlaws and play with no Korean players on a team that finished in the bottom half and doesn't have any money, doesn't have an owner, or anything like that. Like doesn't scream. It doesn't scream, I want to go there as like the premier free agent. I think the lack of people interested in willing to pay him the money to sign him caused him to be like, oh crap, I need to find a team. And Houston was like the best fit for him at that point. Which, great for Houston.
To piggyback up with that, obviously there were a lot of murmurs about an asking price for Mecco, where there was concern that maybe Mecco kind of priced himself out of landing on an Overwatch League team at all. Do you feel like at this point that Mecco would have had to take a pay cut in order to make that happen, or was this just more just to do with the fact that the sale was finalized and the funds were there at that point where they were able to pony up in order to get Mecco?
Oh no, he had to take a pay cut to go to the Outlaws. And like that's the thing is like after a certain point of someone of his caliber, he loses the tactical advantage of like signing. Like of any this happens with any free agency in any sport is if you're not one of the first to sign and you're not a transcendent like signing.
Well, he's not Zenyatta.
Yeah, you lose the tactical advantage. You lose the upper hand at some point, and I think he hit that tipping point, so he had to lower his demands, and that's when you saw these teams come in. Houston Outlaws knocked this one out of the park. Like they just did. They probably have a top 4 tank line now with Mecco and why am I drawing a blank?
Mooma.
I was like, Moth? No, that's the main support. Mecco
so you got Eminem.
Yeah, you got Eminem. Mm-hmm. And then you have, I still expect them to cut or get rid of at least one DPS player. I think they have too many, and I think they need to fill their main support role. Still. I'm not sold on their main support. But, I mean, you got Blase, who I'm very high on. I'm very high on, Color Hex being there. Dante, those are going to be your 3 main DPS players. Linkser will probably be a specialist, and Jake, probably odd man out. Now, there were rumors that he was going to get traded to Atlanta. We'll still see if that happens, but Jake could also retire. Jake could also move to a coaching role or an analyst role.
Or start the Players Union.
Yeah, something. I think Jake is destined for more things. Mm-hmm. So, I'm very interested to see how it turns out, but they're good. The Houston Outlaws are going to be good. Clip it, whatever.
But will they be great?
No, I do not think they will be great. I think they're a top 10 team next year. I don't put them in the top 3-4.
Mm-hmm.
but I put them in the top 10. Like, if you told me that they were number 5, I wouldn't be surprised.
Now, see, here's where I'm going to paint a different picture. Like, okay, so we see the Outlaws that come out here to make 2 awesome sign-ins. And I was like, okay, these are fantastic. You address 2 of the issues, but then there's the other part of me that's like, okay, they're just going to come out here next and just have an absolute Papega take on the trade or a sign-in. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, what other role are they gonna try to improve on? I'm like, okay, main support. Yeah, that's what it's gonna be. I could have sworn there was a certain former Excelsior player who had been practicing a ton of main support and was gonna transition off of DPS in order to move. And yeah, don't mind Ed. He's losing his mind talking about players that aren't on the right team. But...
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was not Color Hex. I meant hydration. Color Hex is still on Boston for now.
But watch Houston go out and pick up Flower to play as the new main support, just to kind of offset these other awesome things happening. But then again, Flame has already said, like, hey, like, we're done at this point. So I doubt it's gonna happen, but, like, there's just part of me that's just like, okay, like, we've seen good, but then we gotta see that really bad take, and that would be the direction that I could see them going. Much to the chagrin of all the Outlaws fans out there. But I am happy for both of these sign-ins.
Yep.
I'm hoping we do see Repel get the nod over Ruckus, so we can see more of an opportunity for him on that front. But, you know...
I don't think Repel would have signed with Houston.
Had he known that he'd just be riding the Pine.
Had he known that he was gonna, like... Because if you're gonna just ride the Pine, why not just try and stay with the Titans? Yeah, it's a team you know will win. You are moving teams like that because you're gonna be starting. And you know what? You know, like, you went from the American heroes of the Houston Texans. It's now a mixed roster. So things are about to get a little crazy down there in Houston. But Texas as a whole did very well in free agency and Overwatch League.
We did. But they still have a lot of contracts in play that just make you just kind of scratch your head.
In theory, yes. It's without knowing the money behind it. Like, you know, what if Taimu's making like the league minimum?
Or he's making like $600,000 or something stupid.
Yeah, like, you can't get rid of him, but you can't, like, you have to keep him. So, yeah, without knowing the money, a lot of this is just what the hell's going on.
So on that note, we do have one other team to talk about, and that is the Florida Mayhem, who, you know, they got a couple of signings here. They also added a couple of coaches. So the Mayhem, they went out and picked up Yaki and Gangnam Jin from Runaway. They also added Kuki, yes, that Kuki, as their new head coach, also from Runaway. And then they also signed Dox as an assistant coach. So quite a bit going on there. I have to say, like, we've been hearing about the Runaway to Mayhem link for a long time now. It's good to finally see the deal being done. Now, Dox was on MVP space beforehand here, so kind of like a middle-of-the-road Contenders Korea team on that front. You know, Kuki, like, we all know, like, he was in the Overwatch League at one point. He was on the Dynasty as a backup tank. And, you know, we kind of see him, like, moving back and forth. They had a really good run with Runaway over in Korea. They did great things there. And, you know, this is, like, the first time we've seen a former Overwatch League player getting picked up as a head coach in the Overwatch League. So it's a first in that regard, which I'm really excited to see how that is going to pan out. But getting Yaki to, you know, just come in, shore up that DPS line, getting Gangnam Jin, who is widely considered to be one of the best flex support options out there that you can have, is incredible, and I cannot wait to see Yaki coming in and playing Projectile on this team. It feels good to see Mayhem making a giant stride forward for a change, and not just kind of being like, oh, here's like a tier 2-ish or like kind of like a more unknown Korean player. Now we're actually getting out and getting huge pieces of some absolute dynamite teams that have championship caliber players.
No, I couldn't agree more. Like, Florida, to me, has probably had one of the best off seasons. And let's be real, it's not even like all they did was add 2 new players and a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like they added some assistants and stuff here and there, but they added a new flex support which shores that up. Like they had Hagapen, they had Byram, but Gangman style, that is what I will be calling him.
Mm-hmm.
Like automatically upgrades it to like a strong position, and then you have Yaki to pair with Saya and BQB, and you're just like, okay, you're good there. Like you're set. And then one of my favorite players from last season, Gargoyle, on tank with Fate. Like that was a good tank line. I think the weakest spot on this team right now is Chris at main support, and that's not even that big of a weakness. Like he's not god awful.
Yeah, I wonder if he's the in-game leader on that team.
And he could be. And there's still room for the Florida Mayhem to make signings. Like Florida Mayhem just jumped up into a top 10 team. In my mind. Like, I think they are probably a top 10 team at this point. So, like, them and Houston probably have made the biggest jumps as a team out of anyone this offseason. So, great signings. I'm interested to see how they go forward. If they stick with the yellow and black, or if they go to the Miami Vice colors, which they need to. The only thing now that Florida needs to do is settle on a home city.
I think you're never going to be pleased with the way that they handled that, Ed.
I know, and it's not anything that's like outlandish of me. It's you have a geolocation organization that doesn't have a home city, and the 2 cities they're using are not close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're a 4 or 5 hour drive apart. Like, yes, they're in the same state, but really, you need to pick a city. And I'm gonna go on about this until they do. They don't have to change their name. They just have to stick with one location.
Right.
That's all I ask. But yeah, no, Mayhem have done well. They don't have Tavik though. Yes, Fate is re-signed. Fate's on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they have Fate, Karayan, and Gargoyle for their tank line.
Yep.
Karayan pretty good with reactionary Reinhardt play.
Yep.
We'll see if that comes into play.
Karayan got brought in with Gargoyle because they were, I forgot which Korean team they were with, but they were the tank line brought it together. And then they traded for Fate, and a lot of us were like, wait, you just signed a tank duo.
Yeah, it was on Armament.
Yep. So, yeah, it's pretty, pretty interesting by them. So I'm very interested to see how things will go. And the Kuki signing, like you said, it's the first Overwatch League player to be hired as a head coach. So that's cool. Like when it first happened, I'm like, wait, same Kuki? Which Kuki is this? And then no shit. It's the it's the tank from the Seoul Dynasty and the LA Valiant.
Yeah, so, not the monster who was addicted to heroin cookies like in Family Guy.
Yeah.
you don't remember that sequence? It's like getting there's like a plate of cookies and like he's like in a mental institute and like I'll get into it after because I don't want to talk about
Fair enough.
some of the subject matter because like it wouldn't be
You
appropriate.
don't want to talk about heroin?
Well,
Okay,
it's not
that's
so
good.
much that, but something to do with history after the fact. But anyways,
That
so
was as
let's.
bad as an Ed joke. It was. You
Well,
just hit
the
Ed
problem
joke
is
status.
I couldn't actually say what I wanted to say. So I kind of took the punch out of it. But anyways, let's talk about what's been going on in the PTR for our main discussion. So we got a new patch, guys. New balance updates. We got a new feature in regards to the While You Wait. So this kind of replaced Skirmish. And basically in queue, you have the option of doing some different game modes. You were able to go into the practice range, which you can actually do as a group now for whatever reason. Like, that's kind of weird. You can also skirmish, which... If you replace in skirmish, why would you still have skirmish? That's another thing that okay.
They gave us an option to turn skirmishes off,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone
And then
turned
put
it
it back
off.
in.
Don't give that as an option.
So, there's also deathmatch, and then there are custom game options, and there is a new setting to allow players who are in matchmaking to also enter your custom games as well on that front. So they basically, like, if you're a high-ranked player, and if you play DPS, now, rather than playing another game while you sit in queue, you can actually play Overwatch while in queue.
Yeah, it's, this should just be renamed. What do streamers actually play? And it's While You Wait. Like, like the queue times destroyed a lot of, not destroyed, but like made a lot of like streams the most boring thing to watch in Overwatch. Like certain players like would just go play another game while their queue is up. Like I've watched people who go and play WoW Classic while their Overwatch queue is waiting to pop.
Or Hearthstone Battlegrounds.
Yeah, exactly. So, this changes. It will not affect me or you.
Nope.
Because, like, even me, like, to play DPS at my level, it's like a 4 or 5 minute queue.
I mean, hell, even with 5 minutes, I get really tilted. So just to be able to deathmatch will be a welcome change.
We're not going into these modes a lot of the times, probably even. So, but it's good they're adding it in. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so balance updates. We got a ton, but first we got to talk about the armor change.
No, we didn't get any changes.
Oh, minor, very minor. Not gonna change anything. So armor damage reduction was increased from 3 to 5. So yeah, this is basically like back to what it was with goats at this point. So basically, what does this mean for the landscape of Overwatch? Well, couple of things. Sustained damage is going to struggle a bit here. Burst will be coming back to the forefront. So snipers looking pretty good. There's also this weird thing going on with Hanzo in regards to his hitbox, specifically around the head area, which is also gonna further aid that. Yeah, let me see if I can find it real quick, Ed. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the armor changes here?
I mean, right now they are, and you're seeing this kind of a little bit, is they're reverting some of the GOATS nerfs that they did. Like you saw it with Lucio, you're seeing that with this armor change, and stuff like that. So we're starting to see some initial GOATS nerfs get reverted. This makes Baguette stronger. I don't know if she'll truly be played because she's not that consistent of a healer, and her shield is basically trash. At this point, you just save it to do bash. But her ultimate got a lot better. I'm not sold that this is going to be that massive, but I think it definitely helps certain characters out more than others.
Like Brig.
Yeah. So, in a week when we're talking about all these changes going live and stuff like that, the armor change is not going to be talked about. Like, it's these kind of changes that when things go live that don't get talked about. Like, if the alt increase, like when the global alt increase, like how long it takes to charge, that's not something people talked about after it went live, really. You talk about individual character buffs and nerfs, but not like the overall buffs or nerfs to everyone. So this is something that will probably be forgotten about once the patch goes live.
All I know is
because all people will talk about is the shields.
Indirect bird buff.
Yeah, it's an indirect
also a Reaper nerf in that regard too.
Yeah, and a little bit. I mean, as weird as it sounds, kind of a Torbjorn buff, because when he does Molten Horror, no, not Molten Horror. What's the ability that they just buffed? They reduced the cooldown. Overload. That gives him armor and stuff like that. So maybe that will, makes him a little bit, more beefy. Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think it's a good change in theory. I have thoughts about this whole patch. I'll talk about.
You don't say. I mean, I would hope you have thoughts about it, because otherwise, what the hell are we doing here?
We're doing a shady podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about how we're gonna pair individual players to specific songs.
Seriously, the Guanzo Charge roster. There is like every name of every player on the charge falls into line with a song.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? Billboard 5, like top 50 Billboard is the new name of the Guanzo Charge.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, as Spider was saying in chat, tanks will be more face tanky, blurring the line between off tank and main tank, which is a good segue into the Orisa changes, because this is something that I had mentioned earlier. Okay, so Orisa right now, base armor increase from 200 to 250. The movement speed penalty was reduced from 30% to 20% for the primary fire. The barrier health was cut from 900 to 600, so pretty big change there. But they did decrease the cooldown on Fortify, going from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. So what does this mean for Orisa? Well, it means a couple of things. Orisa, basically harder to kill thanks to the lowered Fortify cooldown, but she's a much harder time protecting her team. Her shield blows up pretty damn quick. Like, I know they were testing it on the PTR. Roadhog can basically completely obliterate it within 4 shots. Any sort of focus fire and that shields are just nullified at that point. So, in regards to how you're approaching Orisa at this point, you're basically looking to burn down the shield, and then you're going to target the backline. And basically ignore Orisa. So Orisa's going to be, like, the last person standing on the team, or the last focus, target in this case. But here's the thing, like, at this point, looking at Orisa, feeling her out a bit more on the PTR, it feels like Orisa is more prone to be considered an off-tank at this point, especially when you pair her with Reinhardt. Now, I know what people are to think. They're like, oh, great, Totem, this is still double barrier. Not this again. And it's okay, guys. It's not as barrier heavy as it was. You're not going to see the same amount of uptime compared to what we saw in the past with Sigma or Orisa. But, that's probably going to be more prominent on maps where dive isn't super viable. But again, with all the armor changes, you have to factor in who that's going to benefit, who that's going to detract from. There's a lot to kind of like weigh in on that side of things. But as a whole, this is a prime opportunity for some wacky shit to happen on the PTR. And there have been pro pugs in EU. There have been a whole number of different compositions being thrown around. But it seems like we are seeing a ton of Orisa and Rein, and we are seeing a really big uptake in Reinhardt Zarya tank duos as well. But Orisa, you almost feel just unkillable when you pop Fortify. But outside of that, you're not as beefy anymore.
No, you're not as beefy, but it is the survivability of Orisa seems better now. I agree with you that Orisa is now kind of an off tank, but the line between main tank and off tank is very blurred now, because like you have three legit off tanks in Roadhog, D.Va, and Zarya. Those are the legit three off tanks, and you have two main tanks. In my mind, right now, you have Reinhardt and Winston. The rest are kind of like an odd, crazy mixture of both. I did expect to see it more Rein Orisa, because with all these changes, I actually think Orisa is better than Sigma. It is more useful to a team than Sigma. Be it like, yes, the barrier, you cannot place the barrier up, you cannot place it in different directions like that, but replace that with you can fire longer distances. The movement reduction is, even though it's only by 10%, you can barely tell on the PTR right now that she's slowed at all when she's firing. You have the Fortify, and then, like, let's be real, like, the ultimate for Orisa, I think, is better for a team than Sigma's ult. Like, Sigma's ult, yes, it's awesome if you caught somebody in it, but all they had to do was hit a Lucio ult, and it was negated. Or it was just a zoning tool. Whereas Orisa's ult, you can throw it down, put your shield up, which doesn't take much to kill, but if you have another Reinhardt, you have that Reinhardt swinging away, you have you shooting, the rest of your team benefiting from this. Orisa ult, like, probably the two best, like, tank ultimates are probably Orisa, and you could make an argument for Reinhardt's Shatter. But I think Orisa's can be the most effective to the whole team. It's one of those non-zoning ults, which is, I mean, you're looking at Winston, Hammond, D.Va, Sigma. Those are zoning ults mainly in pro games. So it's, I think Orisa becomes the best off tank in the game.
You still have the option of setting up the halt combinations as well, so nothing changes on that front.
No, Spider brings up Grab. Grab is a great ultimate. It is a very good ultimate, but it takes, outside of pro play, it takes a lot of coordination to actually truly make it super effective.
Because I'm in the mindset of, if you even just catch one person and solidify a kill, you're guaranteed to win that fight.
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know. While I've been very impressed with Zarya's ult, I think, and this is more like, yeah, like Spider says, the right, Shatter does the exact same thing. If you can connect with it on one person, you're more than likely going to kill them, and then you're gonna win. So, like, you kind of, a horse apiece in that regards. But I don't see the effectiveness of Zarya where, at least where I'm at, and even like in like gold, when I was playing in gold and stuff like that, you're not seeing it being taken advantage of like it should be. And I think that's what I was getting at. So, in pro play, you could see Zarya in there instead of Orisa, but I think we're in line for a Rein Orisa meta, but it's not double shield meta. Like, yes, there's two shields, but it's not the same because the game moves so much faster now with all these changes, which we'll talk about with Super Mario Reinhardt. And
That's very accurate.
and but like you said, like an Orisa shield can get 3 shots from Roadhog and it's dead.
Four.
4 shots. So I mean, imagine if you had a Junkrat. Imagine if you had a Pharah. Like they're just gonna like 3 shots and that's down. Like that's not an effective shield.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
almost like
it's so big. Like it's not like Baguette's shield where it's so small you have to like hit her face on
Right.
to break it. It's like this thing is like it's the side of a barn and a half.
Yeah, for me, like the biggest thing is like how big of an adjustment is this going to be on the supports now that tanks are actually going to be taking a lot more damage as opposed to all this damage just going into barriers at this point. So it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on or just adjust to along the way for all the support players out there. But let's talk about the other tanks. So we have some changes to Sigma. So the experimental barrier health was reduced from 1500 to 900. The barrier health regen rate was reduced from 150 to 120 health per second. And then we got a couple of changes to his kinetic grasp. So the cooldown was reduced from 13 to 10 seconds. Then he also changed the damage to shield gain ratio from 40% to 60%. Sigma, up until this point, I still like the freedom that you have in regards to deploying his shield. It is significantly weaker, but like that's the same case for basically every tank outside of Winston, who has like the best shield at this point or barrier. But I don't really think like survivability was like the hugest issue. So like the grasp changes aren't really a whole lot on this end, but like I feel like he's still gonna have consistent damage because nothing's really changed on that front. You're just not going to have just the same amount of uptime that you would on the barriers as opposed to the past. So I feel like there's still gonna be a lot of opportunity to see Sigma play, but it's still going to kind of be in a similar role where he's going to be more in line of an off tank still at this point. But you're still going to be able to set up the same amount of plays. But, at this point, it's a matter of what playstyle do you favor bringing in with that aggression that you are going to start seeing more and more from the Reinhardts now that that movement speed penalty is absurd, which we'll talk about because that was reduced by half basically. But like I feel like Sigma will still be okay, but it is going to take a lot of adjustment just with barrier management on that front. So the skill ceiling is definitely going to change on this front here.
I could not disagree with you more. To me, this is you're digging the grave. They were digging it slowly, and this patch is they're kicking Sigma into said grave. I don't think Sigma is going to be really that viable. The kinetic, like you said, the survivability to me was not the main issue with Sigma. And here's the thing, it was awesome when you were going against Reaper because you could negate the ult, but like it's kind of like you change this, which changes this, which changes this. So, all right, you make him better against Reaper with the kinetic grasp or something like that. Well, with the armor buff, you get Baguette, which is a fairly hard counter to Reaper. So you have that going on. So you're going to see less Reaper play. So that's not an issue. If you start seeing more Zarya play, well, the Connect Grasp is useless because it doesn't stop you against beams. Like, a beam is still going to damage you whether you have Kinetic Grasp up or not. So you have stuff like that. It doesn't stop a hammer being swung in your face. So I think the Kinetic Grasp, at least from a pro play level, like, I'm not talking, our competitive ladder matches. I'm not talking from a pro level. I think this was the nail in the coffin for Sigma.
See, I don't know, because, like, with me, like, knowing the Reinhardt trainers, which we'll talk about, knowing how much W's are going to be pressed, Reinhardt's going to be pretty susceptible to accretion.
Yes, it could be, but I just think Orisa takes over for Sigma as the off, or Zarya. I think that's just better. I think it's just better because, and we'll talk about this when we get into Reinhardt, but it's just Sigma becomes like the number 3 to 4 off tank to me in this patch, because I'm thinking you're either going to be going Orisa, Zarya, or D.Va beforehand, and then Sigma, and then Roadhog. Like, that is my order of off tanks or non-main tanks.
Yeah, right now it's just kind of like up in the air, which is why it's so confusing. Because like if like a lot of these tanks are going to be considered off tanks, so to speak, at this point now, a lot of them do have similar values in regards to their damage. So then you're looking at like utility, what they pair with, like how were they going to counter whoever's going to be meta at the time, and you know it could just be a thing where we're just going to see a lot of rotations in and out, and go back to like the rock paper scissors aspect of it. But let's talk about the Reinhardt changes to wrap up the main tank side of things. So Reinhardt, barrier field health was reduced from 2,000 to 1,600. The movement speed penalty was reduced from 50% to 25%. And then we also have his steadfast, which is his passive. The knockback resistance was increased from 30% to 50%. So basically, Reinhardt is kind of immovable.
Yeah.
In regards to knockback effects. So, you know, that affects Lucio, Wrecking Ball, Pharah, Doomfist, basically. So you're not going to get a ton of pinball action in regards to Reinhardt. And that movement speed penalty change is drastic.
It is. Like, you know how in, like, I call him Super Mario Reinhardt.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I said that, yeah, it's the star power. Like, his movement now when he has a shield up is like you got the star power compared to what it used to be. Like, you're moving in, and that's why it's one of those things where I think Zarya, a well-timed Zarya play is going to be interesting, because you can use the Reinhardt, because 1,600 health for the shield. Yes, it was a nerf. I get that. But it still has more health than Sigma's shield used to be.
Yeah, and it's more than Orisa and Sigma combined at this point.
Yeah, like it's more than the Orisa shield was pre-nerf. So like it's not like it's just a throwaway, like, you know, shield now. It's still a 1,600 health. So you're gonna push through quickly with the speed through a choke point, and then Reinhardt can like get in there. You drop the shield, you barrier with Zarya, swing away, and then you pop your shield again, and you just negate choke points. Really, with this Reinhardt, you negate choke points. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of scary.
Yeah, like especially like I don't know what the support line is going to be, but like I definitely want to experiment more with Lucio Brigitte for the duo.
Really, like, here's the thing: will you need Lucio anymore? Like, I know you can never have enough speed, but you used to use the speed to like get in with teams.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you're already at that speed, you would probably be using with the Lucio buff. Is Lucio needed because you can get better actual like full-on healers?
Mm-hmm.
So like, is it going to be more of a Moira, like Mercy or Brig Mercy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Spider brings up Ana. I still don't like Ana because of the two shields. If Orisa becomes the flex tank. Like, you still have the 2 shields you have to deal with and stuff like that. But Anna would be great. And Anna nano boosting the Reinhardt would be awesome. But yeah, we also have Baptiste. Um, but it changes the way that tanks are played. These Reinhardt changes. It's just you no longer have to play kind of like a passive aggressive main tank style because you're just gonna be flying through. Um, so I'm scared and I'm interested. Scared interested to see where things are going.
I cannot wait because, like, knowing how quick Reinhardt is, knowing how easily you'll be able to play off of that aggression to get really easy energy on Zarya is gonna fit right up my alley, so I cannot wait to dive in as soon as this is on live. So outside of that, we also got other changes. So Moira, Biotic Grasp healing was reduced from 4 to 3.25, or in healing per second, that would be 80 to 65. Moira's still gonna be in a pretty decent spot overall. Like, she's still gonna have, like, her escape ability, like her healing throughput's still looking pretty good, still up to this point. But who knows? Like, I really feel like Brig is probably going to get the most love out of the changes in regards to the supports, just due to the armor changes. We'll see whether or not they do anything with the armor packs at that point down the line with the next balance updates. That remains to be seen. But I don't think Moira players really have anything to worry about. You might not be able to 1v1 everyone in the game, or you might not be able to have as much throughput, but, like, I think for a while this was just, like, incorrect on the tooltip anyway, so, like, I don't know if this is an actual change or if they're just correct in the tooltip.
Yeah, I don't think this is... Well, first off, with Moira, I don't think it's going to change anything. The orbs haven't been touched, so that's still awesome. Can still go through shields, which is awesome. Has a very reliable escape mechanic, which is awesome. She does a little less healing with her P. And, like, yes, it was probably needed because it is an AoE heal. It's not a single target. It was probably needed. But I still think she's a very, very high-end support player. Because nothing else has changed with her. I think more nerfs are needed for Moira. Personally, I think more nerfs are needed for Moira. I honestly believe that either A, reduce the amount of time an orb can stay active, or B, have a length limit.
Like a distance?
A distance limit.
Okay. So, like, how far?
Something like that. Yeah. Like, you can't, in certain maps, you hit a choke point and you throw the orb, and the orb gets there 15 seconds before you do. And it heals or does damage. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I think they need to really touch on these orbs to really get Moira out of the meta.
Right on. So with D.Va, they decrease the cooldown of defense matrix. So that is going from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. I'm really not feeling D.Va right now. Is that keeps typing because he doesn't mute because of his injury, but that's fine. So, like, here's the thing. Like, D.Va, in my mind right now...
Wait, whoa. I was muted.
No, you weren't.
Yeah, I was.
No, you weren't. I'm pretty sure everyone in Twitch chat can hear you.
Whatever. I don't care.
It's not the first time. It's just the first time I called you out on it. Because it happened a lot. But anyways, so D.Va... I'm not expecting to see a ton of D.Va right now. Unless we are going to see a ton of double sniper. You're probably going to see more in that regard, just so you can control high ground. All of that good stuff. But for me... D.Va is going to be probably the least played off tank at this point.
Yes and no. The only thing would be is if you start to see teams run dive with like a Winston Diva type of thing. That's all I can think of, because there has not been a time truly when Diva was completely like, we're not going to play her at all. There's been times when she hasn't been pure meta, but she was still played occasionally. So it's hard for me to think of all that. So it'll be interesting, but yeah, I she'll probably won't be played much.
Yeah, we also have a change to Widow with the grapple hook. So they increase the cooldown from 10 seconds to 12 seconds. So, this is basically reverting a cooldown change from the past, so it's back to where it initially started. I don't play enough Widow to really know how much of a difference maker that 2 seconds is going to make. But for me, I'm probably not going to be playing Widow. I mean, outright, unless it's Mystery Heroes, so...
Yeah. I mean, this isn't really a big thing unless Dive comes back. If we're talking Rein Zarya or Rein Orisa, they won't need to escape as much as they will with like Winston Diva. So they did this in case it's gonna be a dive meta, then you want the nerf to Widowmaker, because she'll be played a lot more.
Yeah, it's just like that burst damage really pushes the sniper damage to the forefront. So, increasing the grapple hook is trying to compensate that. So next up we have Torbjorn, who had his overload cooldown decrease from 12 to 10 seconds. So, this is more in line with, like, we'll see how much synergy there will be in regards to bringing Torbjorn up with the armor changes on top of this. He might just go back to kind of like his prior role of kind of being like a gatekeeper DPS at the lower levels. Probably won't see a ton of play at high end.
When you lose some of the shield viability, you lose some of the Torbjorn viability. Like, it's just, they kind of go hand in hand. You lose some of the Bastion viability with these shield nerfs as well. So it's just these turret setups that are meant to be behind shields are going to get a little bit of a nerf. Which, whatever, I'm fine with.
And we also have a Genji buff. What the hell is this? This is a new thing. Genji, they looked at his shuriken. So his ammo was increased from 24 to 30. I don't know if this is a first direct buff since beta. I can't remember Genji really being in anything outside of bug fixes. I'll have to double check on that, but like, either. It's like so few and far between if there were any, so I'm okay with it. Like, 6 isn't really that much, but like, it's chip damage, so like with the armor changes, it's really not going to bring that much more damage output for Genji on that front. But, if we're seeing dive, maybe we'll see a bit more come into play in that regard. But, like, this isn't going to make or break Genji by any means.
No. It would have means that Haxel could have killed 6 players from the Mayhem instead of only 5. It's a nice change for Genji. I like you said, unless dive is coming back, I don't see this really being a thing.
Basically,
I mean, it's nice.
Basically, Ed, what I get from this is whenever I'm right in front of a Roadhog and I go to alt fire, right? I have 2 extra opportunities to completely miss the target.
Right? You're like, I'm going to shoot 3. And I'm going to miss with all 3.
So it's just like it was
with
prior.
All 3 2 more times. Yeah. I don't consider this being anything really.
Right. But we'll see whether or not AKM can increase his blade time. That's a true testament to this.
No, it won't, because the thing is he won't
still
be
missing.
playing.
Oh, that too.
You can't increase your Genji ultimate time if you're not allowed to play. Which he will not be allowed to play.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah, it's like they signed some They signed some, decent DPS there in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
like Doha, Decay.
Yeah, Decay, that's weird Decay signing. I don't get that. Awkward. Decay jersey on the way for Dallas Fuel.
Maybe I'll have to get one too. Oh man.
Yeah,
Especially if you're updating your Fisher jersey.
Yeah, I gotta get the. I mean, if Fisher signs with the Titans, I'm getting a Fisher jersey, like guaranteed 100%.
Yeah.
I might get a Decay one. I might also get a custom editor. I'm throwing that out there as a birthday present to myself for next year. So,
are you gonna gift wrapping and everything?
I don't know. I decide what team I want to get it for. Like, do I go with the Spark? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Be interesting. But there's one more change, one more hero change.
Yeah, and that's to Zarya. So this is in regards to her secondary fire, that is the particle cannon. The explosion radius was increased from 2 to 2.5 meters, and then the ammo cost was decreased from 25 to 20. So with the explosion radius, this is basically back to where it was before they removed that scaling with the radius and the energy. That was a few patches ago, so that's back to what it was prior. The ammo cost decrease, I mean, it's basically you're getting an extra alternate fire.
Yeah. Yeah, these are basically, like we talked about before, about the reverting GOAT's nerfs. Like, the explosion radius is a direct revert of a GOAT's nerf. And then ammo cost decrease from 25 to 20. That's just more alternate players and stuff like that. I think this is great for Zarya. She might become too good again.
This is how they're gonna bring Slambo back. By buffing Zarya.
Are we gonna see some like 222 goats? Like, I know that sounds weird to say, but are we talking that we're gonna see, the Rein, Zarya, Lucio, Zenyatta, then like Mei, and you know what I mean? Like, are we gonna get that back? You think with all these changes?
I don't think so.
No. I don't know. The real interesting thing actually is when I saw these and I was like testing it out and seeing what people were saying, is my first thought went to the San Francisco Shock. Because like if they go Rein, Zarya, you're obviously starting Super and Sinatra. What the hell do you do with Choyobin? Like, that's the thing. If Zarya becomes the new flex tank, which is highly probable, what happens to all these flex tanks out there that weren't on Zarya? Like, what happens? Does Carpe start playing Zarya? You know what I mean? Like,
poorly.
Like, does Janu get benched and Seomin Su comes in as the flex tank?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could see some crazy stuff.
Or who knows? Maybe we'll even get another balance pitch after this, for all we know.
I mean, we very well could, because we're still like 2 months away from next season. I mean, we might even get. I mean, no, I don't think we'll get another hero. We would have gotten a hero at BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just waiting for, Overwatch 2, which I've started to read that that it could be coming out sooner than people think. But Spider in chat says most flex tanks can play Zarya. Yes, they can play Zarya. But are you telling me that Choyobin's a better Zarya than Sinatra? Probably not. is hot but a better Zarya than Nene? Is Janu a better Zarya than Tiramisu? Probably not. I'd say half the teams have a better DPS on Zarya than a flex tank. Shock is more than just the exception. Like, there's more than just the Shock. You're talking Shock, Titans, New York Excelsior, Hanzo Spark. Can't even remember who the hell is on Seoul Dynasty at this point. But no, even Seoul Dynasty. Fury wasn't playing Zarya. So, like, it's gonna be interesting to see what people play.
See, Ed's confusing himself because he keeps talking about too many teams.
I keep talking about what?
You keep talking about too many teams, and then you're confusing the players.
You're right. So, that seems recency bias because you saw them more recently. I mean, yes, that is true. But more recently, we saw, if you're talking Zarya play, you saw them more recently in GOATS. And when GOATS was a thing, I'm not going to get into this with you, Spider.
It's primarily DPS, Umbrig, and Zarya. I mean, that's what it was. But before that, the Flex Tanks usually would be playing the Zarya prior to that.
Except for probably about 5-6 teams. Which would throw out some interesting conundrums.
Talking about before GOATS. Before GOATS, it was not normal for the DPS to play off tank.
No, it wasn't normal for them. But then once DPS had to switch to Zarya because of GOATS, you found better Zarya players. In my mind, you found better Zarya players. Mm-hmm. So it will be interesting to see who would play Zarya if she becomes meta. But we won't know till February because we're in a hella, pro drought.
Right. I mean, we have the Shanghai Invitational coming up in like a week and a half, roughly, because that's at the end of the month. So I really don't want to talk too much more about the patch. We did see a couple of like the pro reactions to it. Really, the only one I feel like is worth bringing up is Samito, who was talking about Orisa. And, he talked about, Orisa's barrier was not the problem. Her Fortify, which you guys buffed, LOL, makes her 800 HP, 400 of that being armor with CC immunity. Then he's talking about making it 20% damage negation, and the game is good. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is Orisa still at this point just too good? Like, are you fully expecting a double barrier over the Rein Zarya composition?
Yes, I really am expecting it. Because you see a lot of things. Like, one of the biggest things I heard was there's no nerf to Doomfist in all this. Mm-hmm. Doomfist is too powerful. Well, all right, you play Reinhardt, who got the buff to knockback, and then you got a buff to fortify, both counters to Doomfist. Really, it is. So you take out Doomfist, you get Orisa, who's almost unkillable at this point, can move faster. You have a Speedy Gonzalez team, and it's the perfect Orisa is the perfect off tank to Reinhardt, because if Reinhardt needs to bring down his shield for some reason, whether it's dying or he's charging in, you still have that buffer barrier to protect the team there with Orisa. And if Orisa can't get flanked, Orisa can't, Doomfist can't do anything to Orisa. Like, you can't really do it. Like, You're talking Genji, probably not doing much against it. You have the get back and the suction ball and all that stuff. Like the utility from Orisa is gonna play perfectly, I think, into a Reinhardt Orisa team.
Mm-hmm. All right. So with that being said, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, one of the best things to do is to go ahead, head on over to iTunes. We're always looking for reviews. So any feedback or constructive criticism is always welcomed because that will offer us insight on how we can make for a better listening experience for you. And while Ed continues to type, which you guys can hear over OBS, why don't you go ahead and why don't you read off the new review we got this week?
Okay. I'm gonna talk to you about this afterwards because my mic mute was.
It's not working. It has not been working all show.
Seriously, okay, then something's wrong with my mic mute.
Yeah.
But we did get a 5-star review from. Hold on. Callus Solomon 19.
Or
we'll go with
Kale Solomon.
Kale Solomon. So Totem and Ed, it's a 5-star review. Totem and Ed have such an amazing chemistry together on a podcast. I'm shocked I've never found out about this podcast before I did.
You've had 2.5 years.
Yes. Watch this podcast if you're ever too busy to keep up with all the Overwatch news. This is a perfect to listen to on the way to work, working out, or mowing the lawn, etc. P.S. We need more crazy Ed stories every week. This is why I told the story about the Power Rangers and our running face first into a metal pole story at the beginning of the show. So thank you very much for the 5-star review, Cal. I'm just gonna call you Cal. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Come join the Discord, talk with us, all that fun stuff.
And I really hope you're not mowing the lawn for 2 hours.
Yeah, if you're mowing the lawn for 2 hours, I want to see your property because you have a big ass lawn. Like, are you mowing like a hunting, a private hunting facility, like
a golf course?
Do you mow a golf course for a living? If yes, listen to Heroes Never Die. Or
you just have a really bad mower.
Spider, he's like, or he has a shit mower. This is also very true.
Mm-hmm. Which one is it? We don't know. But anyways, if you guys want to find additional Overwatch-related content, we do have Overwatch Recall, which is our podcast directory, which you can find on our website. And then every Sunday, occasionally on Mondays, we do the weekly Recall, which has a list of all the prior week's episodes. So stay up to date on all of that stuff over on Twitter at OW Recall. Now, if you guys would like to support our show, you can do a couple of different things. We do stream regularly over on Twitch, so any Twitch Prime subs thrown our way are greatly appreciated. You could also, hit the subscribe button at the tier 1 at $4.99. Outside of that, we do also have a Patreon page where we have tiers starting at just $1 a month. So for more info, you can visit patreon.com/OWL Network, where you too can join the likes of our Master and Above patrons, Blaze and Bob, Brandon, Jay-Z, Owl, and Kesha in helping our network grow. You might also get buffs who just completely annihilated Ednar and I in random arcade games. That seems to be a thing. But anyways, so outside of that, of course, we have a number of different ways how everyone can get a hold of us, Ed, so why don't you go ahead and let them know how they can do that?
Yeah, of course. So you can reach us through email at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, and that's at @hndoverwatch on Twitter. We do have a website that you can come to, and that's at owlnshow.com, where we post all our YouTube videos, all that fun stuff. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. You can come over on Discord and chit chat with us and all that fun stuff. We're going to be starting to get teases of Christmas skin soon, so I might have to bust out my Santa hat for the shows coming up. So
I'm honestly surprised you don't already wear it. I have neighbors who have had their Christmas shit up since September.
So I would, but I'm moving December 21st.
Oh, that's your
So-
excuse? Everything just stowed away?
Yeah, everything, like, I've already started packing and
Mm.
stuff like that. So I'm not gonna put up my decorations to take them down before Christmas.
Gotcha.
But so come over there, discord.me/OWLN show. We are streaming presently live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLN show. We are Twitch affiliate, so come help support the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon. Our podcast network does stream pretty regularly. So on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, we have the Overwatch League network. When Overwatch League is in session, we have OWL by the Numbers, our fantasy podcast, which is Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific. Then we have this show, Heroes Never Die. Variety Overwatch show airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then the host streams, when available, run on a flex schedule. So be sure to follow us to be notified when we go live. Totem did say, if you want to help the show even further, you can go over to patreon.com/OWL network. And, even the littlest amount helps support the show. I do want to apologize for all the typing.
No, it's all good.
I legit, my mic mute, I've learned now that when I turn mic mute, turn it on, so nothing can hear. I'll type, I'll do whatever, but I didn't know that it wasn't.
There's just sometimes it acts up. Tonight was just one of those times.
Yeah,
And
so
I noticed it.
I blame Totem.
Uh-huh.
I blame Totem for not telling me. Yeah, so I don't have decorations up for Christmas, but I have legit been listening to Christmas music since November 1. I've seen the Muppet Christmas Carol 3 times now so far in the past couple weeks. I've watched all the Santa Claus movies. Great movies, by the way. I've seen Elf. I've seen The Grinch, both the old and the new. The old, the new, and the newest, because there's 3 Grinch movies now. And then I always forget the name of this one, Polar Express. I watched Polar Express with Tom Hanks, and a very underrated one. So I'm very excited. We also do have some exciting news to share coming up in the next few days. So make sure to follow us. We do.
Can't imagine.
I can't imagine.
Can't imagine. It's not like I didn't already do the podcast artwork.
Yeah, it's like
Or...
we're competing with Blevins to see who can do the most stuff at this point. So keep an eye out for that. Very excited about it. Oh yeah, the Netflix Christmas movie with Kurt Russell where he plays Santa. Very good one as well. I have not watched Noel, the new one, on Disney Plus.
Is that the Anna Kendrick one?
That's the Anna Kendrick.
I need to watch that one. That'll probably be the first one I watch this year.
So yeah, get out there, watch some Christmas movies, listen to some Michael Bublé, the Boobs. Listen to his Christmas album; it's quite good. Yeah, I don't know, Totem. I can't, Spider. I can't tell if it's going to be a Battleground Hearthstone show at all, because we're both not obsessed with it.
I mean, I've only been streaming it almost every stream.
I haven't been on a Hearthstone podcast talking about Battlegrounds either.
No.
So,
at all.
But you can follow me personally on Twitter at @NarOverwatch. Totem, where can they find you and where can they watch you?
Well, that's kind of creepy. I'm on Twitter at TotemlyDrunkCTR, and I'm streaming basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and sometimes during the weekend, depending on the schedule, over at twitch.tv/TumblyDrunk. But yeah, more on the podcast front, news probably within the next couple of days, if I'm being honest. Most of the stuff is already situated. It's just a matter of minor details with recording and format, all of that good stuff. But with that being said...
Also, I'm going to add in Kesha, I see you in chat. Ed should prepare top 5 Christmas songs for next week's episode. Duly noted. Also, next week's episode is going to be on Tuesday.
Yes.
Live.
Tuesday.
Live on Tuesday. Because Wednesday, it's the busiest travel day of the year. I'm going to be heading home to spend time with family.
And I'm going to be a wrestling nerd and going to AEW Dynamite at the Sears Center.
So we'll be live streaming on Tuesday, and the show will come out on Wednesday. So
that would be Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Correctamundo. So
next week, twitch.tv/ODVillainShow for Heroes Never Die, episode 187. But with that being said, guys, we're calling it. So thank you so much again for hanging out with us tonight. I am going to go host one of our Blizzard buddies who's streaming right now.
Oh, Rod.
So we'll see what sort of shenanery Rod is up to at this point. But we hope to see you guys back tomorrow night, potentially, for host stream. Or if not then, maybe I'll see you in like 45 minutes when I probably play Battlegrounds. Probably. That seems pretty likely. But
yep.
let's throw things over
let's go harass
Rod, and then we'll see you next time, guys. Take care.
Have a good one.
I'll show.